Hi guys, this is a tarot reading for Leo, Sun, Moon, and Ascendant for the month of January 2019. And again, I'm using the Gemini Astrological Tarot spread. So, Leo, this will be your Ascendant right here, the Eight of Pentacles. And let's do a brief overview of the spread before we really dive into it. So, we've got 1, 2, 3 major arcana. We've got 1, 2 wands. So 2 wands. Let's see. Cups. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cups. So predominance of cups. I'm sorry. We've got 4 major arcana. I forgot about the wheel here, the wheel of fortune. So 4 major arcana. We've got, like I said, 5 cups, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we've got no swords, so that's interesting. We've got 1, 2 pentacles. So 2 wands, 2 pentacles, 5 cups, and 4 major arcana. So, and no swords. So pretty interesting. No swords means on a certain level a lack of objectivity, possibly, or yeah, I would say the potential for a lack of objectivity at a glance. You know, that might change later as I do the interpretations more in depth, but that's sort of what speaks to me at the moment. Just like a lack of objectivity or complete understanding. There's a lot of subjectivity here with the predominance of cups, and then followed by wands for the suites, at least, right? These two are very, very subjective, whereas air and earth are less subjective, more objective, or more impersonal in a sense. And of course, the major arcanum are sort of a synthesis of both impersonal and personal. So we'll kind of see how that factors in here as we go through the spread. But Leo, yeah, you're working very hard this month with the 8 of Pentacles. You are perhaps looking to complete some sort of project, or you may be undertaking some new form of study or apprenticeship, something like that. But whatever it is, you're working very hard, and the immediate results of your efforts will be realized in the Wheel of Fortune, which is that basically just generally something auspicious with regard to finances and financial matters and whatnot. So that's kind of the surface level of that. But yeah, we've got some decent aspects on it too from the world. And even from the 3 here, and this is kind of questionable too as an aspect, but I think it's interesting that these 2 cards are aspecting this Wheel of Fortune in the 2nd house of resources and whatnot, or in this case, the immediate results of your work. It's like you're creating. What you're doing this month is setting in motion a long-term success or goal that will eventually be realized because of the hard work you're going to be doing this month. And aspecting the Ascendant, we have the 7 of Pentacles, which is, of course, before the 8. So this is kind of an auspicious thing in a sense, because it's 7, 8. We have like a natural sort of progression happening with that aspect. We have the Empress aspecting, and we have reverse justice aspecting. So the 7 shows that basically you are transitioning from this month from not knowing what to do with your work to actually starting to sort things out. So that's really great. Setting into motion like long-term currents and possibly success with the world aspecting and so on. So that's really cool. Empress aspecting suggests that you're going to have an abundant amount of support and energy to do this work this month. And you may have the help of some female figures and things like that. But, you know, by and large, you're going to be having a lot of support, and it's like almost like a love and a passion to what you're doing. So you're rediscovering or discovering a passion for something. Justice aspecting, which is also opposing the Empress, is kind of It's possible that like sort of a sense of judgment or internal strife is still kind of lingering over you, but perhaps it's starting to fade away this month with these other aspects and whatnot. Since Empress is in the ninth for you and Justice is in the third, it's kind of a battle of like will and wisdom, or wit and wisdom, in the sense that um, you're going to have a lot of faith kind of helping you along this month, and it may mean sacrificing some of your more rigidly held values and ideals surrounding situations regarding what you're doing and stuff that may have been holding you back. So there's still maybe a little bit of a battle for you there, but I wouldn't look at it as anything too taxing or whatever. And you know, the Empress has really got a lot of support from the World card here, in my opinion, and even the Eight of Wands is a decent card to have next to the Empress. It just kind of supports the flow of energy, and something greater than the immediate struggle is sort of being emphasized, I guess you could say. I think, yeah, the Abundance of Cups is interesting. So let me kind of shift gears for a moment, right? We've got the Nine of Cups reversed, the Eight of Cups reversed, the Seven of Cups reversed, right? So that's 3 cup cards reversed, and it's 9, 8, 7, right? So that's really interesting, because that makes me think that emotionally you're having to revisit something. You're having to go back to something. And we've got these 2 sevens next to one another. 2 sevens here. So the Seven of Cups juxtaposed with the Seven of Pentacles is kind of like really wondering if all your work and pursuits have actually been worth it. Have they actually brought you happiness? That kind of a thing. You know, it's choosing also between like pleasure and responsibility. And so it's kind of like there's kind of a somberness here to what I'm seeing here with all these cards, these 4 cards that I'm circling now. There's kind of like a turning away from abundance and fulfillment. You know, and the question becomes, again, why? What have you sort of left behind? What is sort of plaguing you? Do you feel like you're not good enough? Do you feel like you haven't worked hard enough to deserve what's going on for you? Are you running away from something, so to speak, right? Because you do have some really auspicious stuff going on with the cards I described before, right? The Eight, the Empress, and the Wheel of Fortune, and so on. But look, we even see the Knight of Cups in the 12th house going away from this card. You know, he's pointed in the other direction. He's pointed toward this sort of lonely 11th house figure, this friend that's maybe been forgotten or something, or a past lover, who knows. But it's kind of like there's a backtracking going on. So on some level, you're gonna be retracing steps, and maybe hopefully you'll find out what the root of some of your sadness might be. You know, what is still kind of holding you back from the past, because you have all these wonderful things sort of pointing you toward the future. But especially with Justice here the way it is there some kind of do you feel like you've committed an injustice? Do you feel like you don't deserve the things you're also being driven to pursue now this month? These are some of the major themes that are cropping up here for you. Okay, so yeah, what's interesting too on that note is the 8th house is the world, right? And the world refers to complete, all-embracing fulfillment. It's like the greatest fulfillment. It's the end of the journey, and so on. So a question becomes: Are you afraid or resistant to this fulfillment, this culmination of things? Is that something that you're avoiding by backtracking and so on, and trying to revisit old projects and things maybe left undone? You know, or maybe it's that you need to do this. You know, you need to delay the fulfillment till you figure out what's really going on for you with this stuff, because otherwise you'll get the fulfillment and it'll be, you know, sour grapes, or it won't be stable, or it won't be lasting, or that kind of a thing. So it's very important to ponder these things, but my feeling is that it's almost like a natural flow, like a waterfall or something, a natural progression, and you may even uncover like um, sort of hidden treasures that you'd forgotten about, things that you had worked on in the past, projects and whatnot that will resurface for you, and you'll say, oh my god, I did all this work on this stuff already and I forgot about it, and this is really going to help my new endeavors, my new projects. So kind of a discovery of buried or hidden treasure that you'd forgotten about is a theme here as well. Jumping real quick to this card is the sixth house. This is actually a very good card to have in the sixth house. It means, again, like um, facing your problems and your anything that might set you back work wise, and really like conquering it. So there's just a lot of good things happening for work here in this chart. You have the very auspicious Wheel of Fortune in the second house. You have the Seven of Pentacles in the sixth, hard work and effort, overcoming obstacles. And you have the Eight of Wands in the 10th, which is, the house of actions and career and notoriety. So there's a lot of motion happening. There's a lot of activity there that's going to be supported, and I think is going to lead you to some new and exciting places and so on. Generally speaking, though, what are the obstacles we have to these two cards, the Eight of Wands and the Seven of Pentacles? Well, the only obstacles I could see here would be the Eight of Cups on the Seven of Pentacles and the Knight of Cups and Justice on the Eight of Wands. In the first case, we again have sort of this kind of like sorrow or feeling of depletion that is making it hard to tackle work and things like that. So it is important to let yourself grieve and do what you need to do to move on. Okay, don't hold back on that. In the 8 here with the Justice aspect, where perhaps you're trying to figure out what's really, I don't know, what's fair or what's okay to do, or kind of there's some trepidation around just letting things happen, with just going along with the change and the energy that's already set in motion and that kind of a thing. So I think there's just a little bit too much like judgment there that could hold you back from like the follow through indicated by this card. Next, the Knight of Cups aspecting just repeats the theme of the 8 on the 7, the Knight on the 8 here. Again, giving way too much attention to something that happened in the past a long time ago. Again, whether with the 11th house here, whether it was like a former lover or a friend that you felt that you betrayed, or like some unfinished hope or dream, there's just way too much emotional energy being given to those kinds of things. And we have, the 7 aspecting, the world aspecting. It just speaks to me as, kind of this this fantasy that you had in the past, this grand ultimate fantasy of having your wildest hopes and dreams fulfilled or something, and it just didn't quite work out the way you expected it to. So, I kind of think that's sort of the deal there, if that makes sense. There's just like, just too much energy, I think, being wasted on that. But on the other hand, you may need to revisit it and really understand what it was about before you can move on to the greater things in your future and so on. Okay, the 7th house of relationship is aspected by the passionate, loving Empress, the Knight of Cups, and Justice. Justice is such a killer in this spread. It just is just casting a shadow of doubt and grief on everything it touches for some reason. But there's a lot of romantic stuff happening here in the 7th house. This is like probably the first spread I've seen this month that really does suggest some strong romantic themes this month. And especially if you are attracted to men, so if you're a woman or you are a man who's attracted to men, so on, there's definitely a theme of a a romantic man coming into your life, but um, more energetically, this also means like being more comfortable with yourself too, being more willing to love yourself and um, sort of be mature as a lover, so to speak, be a mature lover. So there could be some breakthroughs for you if that has been something that you've been having a difficult time with. And we kind of see that too with justice reversed aspecting, that justice is like maybe there's a letting go of shame and guilt surrounding love and attraction and whatnot. So I think that's really nice. The Empress being in the ninth is also, I think, about it's not only great abundance and fortune and support for you this month in everything you do, but it's also kind of a maybe a reconnecting with the passionate sexual worldly nature and how that fits into spirituality and the divine and whatnot, because that's often something that gets shunned. That's something that we have a lot of guilt over in this Western culture because of Christianity mainly. And so there could be a reconnecting to that on some level, if that makes sense. I know that's a little vague, but um, I don't think I need to go like too in detail with that, if that makes sense. So yeah, all in all, it's a pretty cool month for you. A lot of support and a good opportunity to like make a journey down memory lane, uncover some rough patches in your life and maybe deal with them, but also uncover some sort of buried treasures or hidden secrets or things you had forgotten about. Um, there's not, again, there's not a lot of objectivity this month for you. So there's a little bit of the danger to become too impassioned and subjective and caught up in like a whirlwind of emotions and ideals and things that you may not know where they're leading. And I would normally say that's great, but I think with swords we need some objectivity here in this spread. There's just too much water happening, and fire and water have a tendency to cancel one another out, of course. um and we just need a more of a balance, I think. So if you can, get some other people's perspectives. Dare to be a little bit more social, maybe, as a way to like counteract the possibility of kind of like a negative sort of grief state. Because it's almost like with this Nine of Wands, you're eschewing a deeper level of fulfillment. You're rejecting it, and you're going back into like a sad kind of state, and then you're escaping into like, oh well, maybe if I just had all these things, maybe if I won the lotto or got a nice car or had all these like things, I'll be happy. And then what's happening there is then that is kind of causing you to second guess your work, which can all very negatively affect your first house of actually working toward something that's going to be long term, very great, and very holistic and all embracing and that sort of a thing. Sometimes too, though, the Wheel of Fortune, especially aspected by the world here, can also mean not really wanting to deal with money and worldly things. It can sort of be kind of a double-edged sword where like these two cards come together and make success in the world, but they can also make dissatisfaction with the world. And the only reason I say that is because of these cards here kind of pointing to dissatisfaction, right? Or escapism or something. So in a sense, like this is happening as a natural result of your own efforts, but then there's like a judgment or a question of if this is really valuable or worth it for you and that kind of a thing. So I just sort of feel like that is something to kind of keep an eye out for and nip it in the bud early. Like there's great good fortune for you ahead that will lead to long-term fulfillment if you just work hard and stick to your guns and embrace what you love and don't get too caught up in these like this habit of like grief and judgment and sort of justification of your hurts and things like that, if that makes sense. And the 8 is the fourth house, which I didn't mention what house it was, but it's the fourth house. And there's kind of like this figure's walking this way, and the knight, which is aspecting, is walking the other way. So there's kind of a parting of ways here. There's a sense of despair and an uneasiness being alone for you right now, which may be why you're thinking about all these ways to like win at the game of life, so to speak. But I think fortunately you do have the sobering 7 of Pentacles aspecting and the Empress, right? So if you can tune more into these aspects of life, like dwelling on what you have and need to work on rather than what you've lost, and dwelling on like the fundamental love and support you have emanating from the cosmos itself, the heart of the cosmos. I mean, the Empress is an emblem of the Divine Mother, so don't be afraid to ask her for help. Your prayers will be heard much more easily this month, perhaps, than they might have been in the past. And going forward, you may establish a connection to the cosmos that you never had before. So with that, I wish you great and good luck on your journey this month. Please hit like, subscribe, and share this video. And please remember to visit my website for individual readings and more. Okay, thanks, guys. Have a great new year and a great month.